Greetings and welcome to Pop Culture Beasts Halloween Horror Picks, the show where I recommend off-the-beaten-path horror movies for your Halloween movie night. I'm your host, Ryan Stockstad, and today we're going to talk about an odd little obscurity that is so bizarre it almost defies classification. Black Zoo, 1963. This movie is so weird, and I want to state right here at the top of the show that this movie is not for everyone. You'll probably either love it or hate it, but after this episode, I'm sure you'll have a pretty good idea of which. The movie stars Michael Gough, who is probably best known for playing Alfred in the Tim Burton and Joel Schumacher Batman movies, but fans of British horror will certainly recognize him from Dracula 1958, The Skull, Berserk, Curse of the Crimson Altar, Trog, Horror Hospital, Satan's Slave, Venom, and many others. Here he plays Michael Conrad, a sadistic zookeeper who terrorizes the people in his life, even as he worships the lions and tigers in his care.
This is Caesar, a lion from Somaliland. A splendid animal with remarkable powers of adjustment. Equally at home in the mountains or close to the sea. Don't you know better than to fire a cap gun here?
But it was only in fun!
Fun for you, but not for my lion.
No, I mean he literally worships them. Conrad belongs to a cult of animal worshippers who hold torchlit ritualistic ceremonies and call themselves the Believers.
Bone and body, muscle, sinew, breathe the spirit that is in you. Enter, enter, enter.
Despite the warmth and affection he has for his animals, Conrad dominates his employees with cruelty and intimidation. There's the live-in mute teenager, Carl, played by Rod Lauren, doing his best silent Frankie Avalon impression.
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't realize that you couldn't talk. Well, then I'll do the jabbering for both of us.
And his kept wife, Edna, played marvelously by the seriously underrated Jeanne Cooper.
Here you will see some of the finest trained chimps. My wife Edna will feature this afternoon Bobo and his playmates, who've appeared with the top circuses throughout the world.
When she isn't performing in the zoo's chimp theater and training monkeys to smoke cigarettes and smile on cue, Edna plays the doting homemaker, a role she clearly can't stand, as evidenced by the fact that she's recently taken up afternoon drinking.
You can't make a move without Mother's Helfer.
Oh, Michael, a little nip doesn't hurt.
Since when has a fifth been a little nip?
But who can blame her? Conrad is a miserable son of a bitch who smacks her around and treats her like a slave.
I don't want a new life opened up for Carl. This life is enough.
Oh, what are you, the voice of God or something?
Edna, I told you to shut up.
I can't and I won't!
You don't have to win a prize with your slop. I'll give you one for nagging. You jabber and needle me till I can't stand
It's
it.
the truth you can't stand!
You drunken sot, what do you know about the truth?
Meanwhile, Elijah Cook Jr. plays a snarling groundskeeper who holds a grudge against the tiger who previously scarred him. All of this culminates in one of the strangest funeral scenes ever put to celluloid.
are gathered here to pay homage to a beautiful friend whose life was ruthlessly destroyed by a stupid and cruel enemy. Baron, your life was cut short in its prime, but you will live in our hearts.
The death of his beautiful tiger sends Conrad over the edge. In his worldview, nothing is worse than the needless death of an animal at the hands of a stupid person.
Conrad! It was him or me!
Then it should have been you!
Kill him, you kill him!
So what? You know what a tiger's life is worth, even in lousy dollars and cents. And you know what this bum's life is worth?
Please leave him alone!
It turns out that this is Conrad's thing. Whenever someone gets in his way or pisses him off, he literally feeds him or her to the lions.
Throw him in there. Do as I told you, throw him in the cage.
Oh, Carl! Oh, Carl!
In fact, the first kill scene in the movie is an obvious homage to Val Lewton's Cat People. The movie also stars Virginia Gray, Edward Platt, and George Barrows wearing a gloriously unconvincing gorilla suit.
I brought him from Cameroon in West Africa many years ago. Even if he doesn't look it, he's strictly a vegetarian.
Barrows got a lot of work out of that monkey suit, playing gorillas in movies as diverse as Gorilla at Large, Hillbillies in a Haunted House, and Ghost in the Invisible Bikini, as well as in TV shows like The Abbott and Costello Show, Addams Family, and The Incredible Hulk. Black Zoo was directed by Robert Gordon and produced by Herman Cohen. They'd previously collaborated with Michael Gough on Horrors of the Black Museum and Conga.
Smile.
Of the three, Horrors of the Black Museum is probably the best. It's incredibly over-the-top and lurid. And Conga, which is about a hypnotized super monkey who turns into a giant gorilla, is surely the worst. Which places Black Zoo somewhere in the middle. It's definitely the least seen of the three films, which speaks volumes about these filmmakers, when a movie this absurd is somehow their middle child.
We are now ready to answer the call. I now feel in closer communion with our beloved animals.
Special effects were handled by effects pioneer Pat Dinga. He'd cut his teeth working for Ed Wood on Bride of the Monster before graduating to Roger Corman projects such as House of Usher, Pit and the Pendulum, Tales of Terror, Panic in Year Zero, and The Raven. And he ultimately worked on a little show called The Outer Limits.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to my animal kingdom.
Do we get to see the tigers?
Of course.
That's all Susan's been talking about on the whole trip. We don't have any tigers in Davenport.
You'll see all the tigers and lions, even a gorilla.
Ralph Helfer handled the film's animal supervision, having created a form of wild animal training he called affection training. His idea was that fear and cruelty produced dangerous animals, and that patience and compassion created better results.
Train an animal with beatings and you've got a hidden enemy. That's why the big cats, the lions, the tigers, even after years of obedience, will suddenly turn on their trainers. No, I do not believe in brutality.
Then how do you control them?
I use patience and affection.
In many ways, Black Zoo is the perfect film to showcase Helfer's affection-based process, as the movie is all about abuse and the power of compassion over cruelty.
No woman ever leaves me alive.
Carl, help me! Help me!
The movie constantly compares Carl and Edna to the caged animals in the zoo. And by the time Edna finally comes to her senses, the audience can't wait for her to break the cycle of abuse.
How fiendishly clever of Michael to tie both of us to him. Me with promises and you with fear.
There's an almost Hitchcockian sequence that I can't ruin for you, where Carl suddenly flashes back to a childhood trauma. It's truly something, and it has to be seen to be believed. I wouldn't want you to get too caught up in the themes and subtext, though. It's still basically a dumb, jaw-dropping exercise in schlock. Halliwell's film guide even called it stultifyingly inept.
And what can I do for you, young ladies?
Well, we're art students from the Valley Institute.
I'm afraid I haven't time to pose.
Not really.
No.
It's not a long movie at just under 90 minutes, but many scenes take just forever to play out. For example, there's a 5-minute sequence at police headquarters that is so campy and on the nose that it reminds me of the old 60s Batman TV show.
These black hairs clutched in the hand of Jenny Brooks are from an animal.
Are you sure?
Positively. Look, I've examined the hairs. I've analyzed the finger scrapings. Well, Chief, as incredible as it may sound, I'll stake my reputation, my 12 years on the staff. Well, not only Jenny Brooks, but the Hogan and Stengel killings, as I've always maintained, were committed by animals.
But then that's part of the fun, isn't it? Watching Edward Platt deliver such corny dialogue with total sincerity and earnestness is a blast. I imagine he finished those shooting days with a long hot shower and a stiff drink.
I want every owner of any animal other than domestic pets in the entire Los Angeles area brought in at once for questioning. I don't care how many men it takes. Blanket the county. Call the sheriff's office, the state police,
the keepers in the public and private zoos.
Bring them all in for questioning. And don't leave out the special farms where they train animals for public performances. Leave no one out.
I'll get on it right away.
Black Zoo is a goofy little oddity that has been largely forgotten, but deserves to be rediscovered, especially by fans of Michael Gough's scenery-chomping acting style.
Michael!
Beloved wife, where do you think you're going? And what kind of a safari did you cook up? I heard you, Edna. Every little sweet, tempting word you poured into the ears of this idiot.
If you're looking for something that feels a bit like a British horror movie, even though it was shot in Hollywood, and a bit like one of Roger Corman's Poe pictures, only minus Vincent Price, give Black Zoo a look. It's a hot mess of weirdness, but I definitely like it more than I dislike it.
We transferred the soul of Baron to him. It was a moving ceremony, a glorious moment when the soul entered this new body.
Well, it's a beautiful cub, Michael, but how can you believe in the transference of a soul?
If you were really one of us, you'd understand.
One of the reasons the film is so obscure and unseen is that it was only finally released for home viewing in 2011 when Warner Brothers released it as part of their made-to-order Warner Archive collection. There are no special features to speak of, but it is beautifully remastered. The picture and sound quality are spectacular.
Come in, King.
Well, what's he doing here?
He's here to protect his home.
out of here! Get him out of here! Oh, help me! Help me!
Thanks for watching Pop Culture Beast's Halloween Horror Picks. I'm your host, Ryan Stockstad. Be sure to like us on Facebook and subscribe right here to the Pop Culture Beast YouTube channel for new episodes every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday in October through Halloween. Thanks again for watching. Watch horror movies. I'll see you next time.